Hello, everybody. This is part two of my reading of Jason Kloepfer's and Ollie Mahler's lawsuit against the Cherokee police and the sheriff, the local county sheriff, concerning the shooting of Jason Kloepfer. If you're not familiar with that case, I've got plenty of videos on it, but just a summary, he's awakened at 5 o'clock in the morning by the Eastern Band of the Cherokee Indians SWAT team. And they tell him to come outside, so he does, and they shoot him. Now, obviously, I'm glossing over a lot there, but that's sort of the gist of it. And in part one, I read about half of the introduction of their lawsuit. And part two here, I'm going to read the rest of it. The rest of the lawsuit itself is rather dull. I don't think there's any need for me to go over it. But one thing about it is that after reading the lawsuit, I now understand a lot better about what happened. So I did answer some questions. By the way, you may notice that my green screen is a little better than usual. I put some time and effort into it and got it pretty good. I mean, I know some of you purists out there will complain about some of the edges and whatever, but this is pretty good for me. Keep in mind, I'm not a professional at this. I have a full-time job. Now, my audio settings are still not that good, so I'll work on the audio next. But at any rate, hello out there. I am trying to get through.
With his powerful brainwaves cradled in the warmth of reasoning, it's time for Johnny Walker Dredd to straighten you out on a thing or two. Emanating all the way from exciting Las Vegas, Oklahoma, it's the Johnny Walker Dredd Show.
Okay, so this is part two. I'm going to just pick up where it left off. So if this is a little bit abrupt for you, you need to go back and watch part one. It's in the Jason Kloepfer playlist, which is linked in the description below.
The magistrate issues a search warrant at 2:14 a.m. As the EBCI SWAT team assembles in the Cherokee County Sheriff's Office around 3 a.m., Lieutenant Teasdale briefs them about the situation. The sheriff participates, too. They describe Jason as having mental health problems. No law enforcement officer has so much as spoken to either Jason or Ollie at this point. They do not even know if Jason and Ollie are home. Yet they prime the SWAT team for an attack.
It says here, Lieutenant Teasdale briefs them about the situation. The sheriff participates too. Why not just say Lieutenant Teasdale and the sheriff? I mean, this is conciseness, right? Now you may think, well, no, we want to emphasize that the sheriff was there as well. You can say both Lieutenant Teasdale and the sheriff. You see how this works? This is technical writing 101. And again, I do this and I charge money for it. So if you have any serious documents, business proposals, grant proposals, books, legal briefs, anything that's really important to you and you want to have another fresh set of eyes, send it my way. It's $150 an hour. It says here, they describe Jason as having mental health problems. Boy, I would really want a direct quote at this point, because what does that mean? It may mean that one of the deputies or something just said, yeah, I know Jason, he's kind of nuts. That's no big deal. But if one of the sheriff deputies says, I know Jason, he has mental health problems, that's far more serious. So to just simply say that they describe Jason as having mental health problems, that's not good enough. You need a direct quote. What did they actually say? And keep in mind, I'm kind of wondering if this is going off in a direction that the lawyers want it to go. I always want to focus, focus, focus.
Around 4 a.m., the sheriff and Lieutenant Teasdale ride out to the scene with the SWAT team in an armored vehicle. Shortly after arriving, the SWAT team illegally breaks into Jason and Ollie's home, without knocking or announcing or seeking permission, and throws a robot drone inside.
Well, they say that the SWAT team illegally breaks into Jason and Ollie's home. I'm not sure it's illegal. They did get a search warrant. Now, I know the complaint is that the search warrant itself wasn't illegal, but they did get a search warrant, so it's a little dicey. If I'm the judge, I want some guidance here on the laws. You've been studying this case as lawyers. Tell me what the law says about this.
That drone provides real-time, streaming audio and video footage to the SWAT team outside. The drone rolls around for a few minutes, shining a light and streaming footage to the SWAT team from inside the home. Then the drone rolls towards the bedroom, waking up Jason and Ollie. The video footage the SWAT team sees on their monitor outside shows, unequivocally and in real time, that Ollie is not only alive, but unharmed. Jason and Ollie are sleeping peacefully in the same bed until the drone disrupts them. Even ignoring everything leading up to this point, as soon as Jason and Ollie arise from their slumber together out of the same bed, this is unquestionably not a hostage situation. A couple sleeping together in their own bed in their own home at 4:57 a.m. is not a crime.
Well, first of all, how does one sleep other than peacefully? I've never had a violent sleep. Well, I guess so if you're having a nightmare and you're tossing and turning, whatever. This peacefully thing, it's an adjective thrown in there that, frankly, I could do without. It states in 2 consecutive sentences until the drone disrupts them. That's just poor technical writing. There's no need to repeat it. And in fact, in this case, I would eliminate the waking up Jason and Ollie part. There's no need to be redundant. That last sentence, a couple sleeping together in their own bed, in their own home, is not a crime. That's pointless. Okay? Just say that there is no evidence that a crime has been committed by Jason or Ali. So there is an embarrassment factor here, and this is something I think is really important to understand. The sheriff, as evil as maybe some of you think, he's still a human being, and so you have to examine this in terms of his perspective. Now, he may have lied during the press conference. If so, shame on him. He may have done some other bad things, but we also have to take this human perspective. So here he is at Jason and Ollie's trailer. He's woken up the Eastern Band of the Cherokee Indians, and they're taking a long jaunt. It's a long drive, I think an hour and a half or 2 hours to get there, right? And so they don't arrive until 5 in the morning. Keep in mind, a whole bunch of police officers from the ECBI have been woken up out of their sleep and are now arriving on site. So what's the sheriff going to say? Oh, it's no big deal. Go on back home. No, I really think that the sheriff is facing a problem here. I think he realizes that, guess what? Jason and Ollie haven't done anything wrong, but you have all those police officers there. What are you going to do? Just tell them to go home? Well, I think what he did, and this is just speculation on my part, here's what I think he wanted to have happen. They roused Jason and Ollie out of their sleep. Jason and Ollie come out of the trailer. They go in, they arrest them, they cuff them, they tell the Indians, go on home, we've got it all taken care of. And then the next day they can say, hey, look, we had to drop the charges. It turns out there really wasn't much of a hostage situation after all. But he doesn't want to face those police members there that night. So that was the plan, I think. He just thought, oh man, if we can just get these guys in cuffs, we can let this thing kind of blow over. What screwed it up was one of the SWAT team members opening fire. Now, all of a sudden, you got a serious problem, and I think that the sheriff panicked. Again, human perspective, the sheriff didn't call out the SWAT team members to murder Jason or Ali. I have a very hard time believing that unless there is a serious history between those two, okay? Maybe Jason stole Ali away from the sheriff. I'm just making that up, Ali, okay? But there had to have been something very serious between them for the sheriff to go and do something like that. Most likely, he got totally embarrassed by this whole thing, and he was just trying to find some way to extricate himself. And allowing Jason and Ali to at least be placed in cuffs, it could have all blown over and nothing would have happened. All of this would have been all quiet until some trigger-happy SWAT team member opened a fire. And that changed everything.
As soon as those images are seen on the drone's video stream, the throng of 25 or so officers assembled in the yard has no basis to invade the home, much less shoot at Ollie, the purported hostage, and Jason, an unarmed citizen. Any pretextual claim of a hostage situation, unfounded from the start, evaporates when the SWAT team sees this live streaming video. Instead of immediately apologizing and leaving the private property, Sergeant Dorr speaks on a PA system outside after they wake Jason and Ollie up.
I know that they threw a drone in there, and that could be considered an invasion. However, this is where things get confusing, okay? If I'm reading this, I'm not quite sure what's going on here. Wait, they invaded? I thought that they just threw a drone in there. Now the judge is kind of confused. So just take that out altogether. The fact that the police didn't apologize, well, that seems inconsequential. So what? That has no bearing on anything. And keep in mind, they didn't wake up Jason and Ollie. The drone did. And you might think, well, what's the difference, whether the drone did or them? It's the same thing. But it confuses the reader. So again, technical writing 101. Always keep reality in front of the reader. These cute kind of illusions don't help.
Sergeant Dorr does not introduce who he is or announce any affiliation with the sheriff. Instead, he instructs Jason to walk outside and talk to the people in the yard. Jason and Ollie walk from the bedroom towards the front door inside their home, cutting lights on as they go.
They were turning lights on, okay? I would avoid saying putting lights on. Putting is a weak verb.
Jason picks up the drone in his right hand when he gets near it. He expresses confusion about what it is. It is not his and should not be in his home. He carries it in his hand as he opens the door. The drone sends a live stream of video footage and the SWAT team watches the video monitor outside as Jason picks up the drone and walks to the front door inside his home.
The chronology here is fouled up. He opens the door, then it later says he walks to the front door. I would eliminate the sentence, he carries it in his hand. I would say, outside, the SWAT team watches the live stream video transmitted by the drone. Do you see how clear that is? And that's what we're looking for, is clarity. And the reason why clarity is so important is you want the judge to be able to drill down right on the grievances. Those things for which you are claiming that your client has been injured. And all of this extraneous kind of cute stuff gets in the way of that. As I said at the start, you have like those 4 things that you got to nail down. The fact that Jason was shot unjustifiably. That's important. Keep your reader fixed on those things that are important.
The SWAT team members wear intercom devices on their helmets. They use the intercom to talk with each other during the raid.
Talk with each other? No, they talk to each other. But you really mean communicate. Okay, so you don't say they talk to each other, they communicate. This is about eliminating prepositions. Okay, prepositions are often indicators of bloated vocabulary. So of and for and with and all those things, you kind of look for those kind of things and ask yourself, is there a way to rephrase this so I don't have a string of prepositional phrases, okay? So again, technical writing 101, conciseness. And again, note the redundancy. It says they wear intercom devices on their helmets. They use the intercom to talk with each other. The word intercom shows up twice in adjoining sentences. That often means that you can actually simplify this a great deal. For example, you could say, the SWAT team members wear intercom devices on their helmets, which they use to communicate. You see how slick that is. It's concise and it gets to the point. It's very clear. So I would ask, why is it important that they wear intercoms to communicate? Well, it's probably important because one of the SWAT team members could have easily told the other SWAT team members that Jason was carrying a drone, not a gun. If so, say it. That is your point. You got to make the point. Instead, you're hoping that the judge infers it. Technical writing and legal briefs especially, you never want the reader to infer. You tell them explicitly what you're trying to communicate to them. Okay?
Jason opens the front door, walks out, and holds both hands up in the air above his head, as instructed. The SWAT team knows that Jason does not have a gun in his hands when he opens the front door because they see Jason holding the drone as they watch the streaming video and talk to each other on their intercom. The SWAT team also see he does not have a gun because he is directly in front of them with his hands held up in the air.
Claiming that the SWAT team knows he is unarmed is a serious allegation. They are being accused at this point of attempted murder. They know he's not armed and they're going to shoot him anyway. That's attempted murder. I mean, sure, some of the cops may be watching the streaming video, but does that mean they all are? Are you going to make a claim that everybody that opened fire that night, and we don't even know who they are, right? We don't even know how many of those, probably 3 or 4, but whatever, we're making a claim here that they knew Jason was unarmed, but they opened fire on him anyway. That is a serious allegation, and quite frankly, you're going to need some justification for that. But the point I would make is you don't need that. Look, they should have known, right? Besides, they're behind cover, and keep in mind, I was never made here, but they showed up in an armored car, and there's plenty of trees for them to stand behind. Even if Jason had a gun, he couldn't have hurt them unless he had a really powerful gun, right? So there was no need for them to open fire because they could easily just simply duck in behind cover if they thought he had a gun. That point is never made in this lawsuit, but it's important to make that point because now you don't have to show that they knew he was unarmed because I'm not sure they did. I think they could have very well have mistaken the drone for a gun. But with the fact that they're wearing communication devices means they shouldn't have. That's negligence, and you can sue for negligence. You don't have to prove attempted murder to win a lawsuit. So I have a little bit of issue here with the strategy. Now, I'm not a lawyer, so the lawyer might come back and say, oh yeah, did you think about this and this and this? And I might say, oh, okay, you're right. All right. So I'm just throwing things out there. If I was handling this, I would do it differently. But then again, I'm not a lawyer and I might have screwed it up. Okay. So I would love to hear from lawyers on this issue here. What do you think? Is it better to throw everything, all the serious allegations out there in the opening brief? As a judge, I would kind of wince at some of the stuff they're saying here. But that's just me. So to summarize, to me, this shooting is blatantly unjustified because they should have known he was unarmed. And they followed very poor procedures to get there. This is a substantial degree of negligence on their part. But why go beyond that? And besides, was there any reason to believe that they wanted to kill Jason? They don't know him, right? So the idea somehow that they wanted to kill Jason, if I'm a judge, I'm just not buying this at all. And I'm not certain the jury would either.
Despite knowing all of this, about 4 seconds later, after Jason walks out with his hands held high in the air above his head, at least 3, and possibly more, SWAT team members open fire on Jason. The SWAT team fires at least 12, maybe more, bullets from their assault rifles from about 65 to 80 feet away. These bullets rip through the occupied home with reckless abandon, slamming through walls and curtains to the back of the bedroom.
It says at least 12, maybe more. As a technical writer, my ears bleed or my eyes bleed when I read something like that. Just say at least 12. Conciseness, really important. Why assault rifles? They keep using this term, probably because it might weigh something with the jury. I hate it, but whatever. But if it really does matter, explain why. Why is it important that they have to be assault rifles? If they had opened fire with pistols instead, would it have mattered? Yes, bullets do tend to fly with reckless abandon. I mean, a bullet is not a sentient being, so how else could it fly? That's ridiculous. I mean, I think that SWAT team members may have acted recklessly or with reckless abandonment, but the bullets didn't. How did the bullets end up in the back bedroom? Now, that would take a hell of a ricochet off something pretty hard.
At least one EBCI SWAT team member admits that Jason did not have a gun in his hands when they opened fire on Ollie and Jason.
All right, so did this SWAT team member open fire? If this SWAT team member didn't open fire, then why are we even mentioning this? I mean, we know that Jason was unarmed. And maybe some of the people out there in the audience knew he was unarmed as well, but what we care about are the people who opened fire on Jason. Did they know? Or should they have known? That's really important. And by the way, this is where the pronoun they is a real problem when used to refer to a single person. Because how many people are we talking about? It says they opened fire. Really? Multiple? Oh, no, it was only one person. Okay, I have really issues with using they to refer to a single person.
At least 2 bullets slashed through Jason's body, tearing through his chest and his left arm. Jason collapses in pain and confusion, falling back into Ollie, who stands directly behind him. Bullets hiss past Ollie's head and body, even after Jason collapses to the ground.
I don't like hiss. I don't think bullets hiss. Whistle would be better, but why not just fly or pass by?
The SWAT team claims that they think Ollie is a hostage, yet they shoot at her, too, missing by mere inches. The SWAT team rushes the home as Ollie cowers near the door with her hands up, protecting Jason with her body, begging them not to shoot her or Jason anymore. The SWAT team steps over Jason in the doorway as he lays gasping and crying out. Jason asks them repeatedly, "Why did you shoot me? I don't have a gun." They do not answer. The SWAT team pushes into the house and bedroom looking for any excuse to justify their onslaught. They find nothing to excuse their unprovoked, illegal use of deadly force.
Did they shoot at her? This implies an intent to shoot her. Somehow the description seems understated. Looking for any excuse to justify their onslaught. All right, here, I have real problems with this. This highly charged language implies that the legal team knows their motive. How would they know this? Did the SWAT team members say that was their motive? If not, you're just guessing. And to be honest with you, it may be right. They may have been looking for any excuse to justify their onslaught, although I don't like the word onslaught. But I don't know if you can make this kind of claim.
Miraculously, Jason survives the ambush. After poking around Jason and Ollie's home as Jason bleeds on the ground in the doorway, the SWAT team finally renders him aid. One of them grabs Jason's arm and drags him on his back down the plank to the cold ground. They arrest Ollie, the alleged victim, handcuff her, and force her to march away and sit in the back of a patrol car in the cold without proper clothing. Ollie worries Jason is dying, but they block her from offering him comfort and care. She has no idea what happens to Jason for hours.
It states that they arrest Ollie, but I don't think they did. Words mean things. Do they have a good reason to handcuff her? I would go more into detail about this. She is potentially a hostage. I think handcuffing her actually is probably standard operating procedure.
After the shooting, the sheriff finally walks up from lurking off in the shadows. In the sheriff's press release the next day, he falsely claims he is not present at the scene, and only obtained information after the fact from the SWAT team. He also falsely accuses Jason of arguing with the officers, in an attempt to rationalize the illegal shooting. Only later, after Jason's video footage from inside his home proves the truth, does the sheriff recant his original, false story in which he blames Jason.
I'm not sure why lurking off in the shadows was really necessary. If he was on site, he was on site. I mean, lurking? Shadows? This just comes off as a cheap shot. How is it known that the sheriff was there? Did he admit to being there? I think that that's kind of important for the judge to know. I'm not saying he wasn't. I think he probably was there, but to just claim it.
The officers on the scene eventually call EMS to provide medical care to Jason. After delays, EMS drives Jason to a Tennessee hospital for treatment. The bullets lacerate his liver, cut through his stomach and the lining of his heart, crack ribs, and scatter shrapnel in his chest. He requires immediate trauma surgery, almost dies, and spends several days in the hospital for more treatment. Ollie remains in the sheriff's custody for hours. They remove her from her home to the sheriff's office, in custody as if she is under arrest.
Now, before it was stated that she was under arrest. It says she is in custody as if she is under arrest. Which one is it?
They do not provide her with any information about Jason, leaving her to fear that he is dead. Hours later, they take her back to the property, but refuse to give her access to her home or her things inside. She only gets her phone to check on Jason after several hours pass. Even though it is obvious after the shooting that Jason has not committed any crimes, 2 different deputies swear out 2 arrest warrants for Jason a few hours after they try to kill him.
Okay, it's not the numeral 2, it's TWO. Okay.
These 2 deputies provide demonstrably false information to the magistrate to obtain these arrest warrants.
It says these deputies provide demonstrably false information. What did they say? What was the basis for the arrest warrants? Arrest him for what? Well, might be a good idea to tell the judge that. Instead of trying to kill him, I would say almost kill him. Again, you don't know their motive.
When Jason leaves the hospital days later, the sheriff forces him to go to the jail and arrests Jason on those warrants. On January 18, 2023, Jason releases the video from inside his home. This video proves indisputably that he and Ollie did nothing wrong leading up to the surprise attack on his front steps. The video proves that the sheriff's press release is not true. The video proves that the arrest warrants are false accusations, obtained by sworn testimony given under oath by law enforcement officers to a judicial officer.
Surprise attack? Well, okay. Press releases are not true or false. The statements made in them can be true or false. And warrants are not accusations. So an arrest warrant can't be a false accusation. It can be based on one.
The sheriff releases a second press release a few days after Jason's video proves the first press release is false. In his second press release, the sheriff admits that the first press release contains false, defamatory stories about Jason. Even after releasing this second press release, the false criminal charges against Jason remain for another 6 weeks. Not until Jason serves subpoenas seeking information to expose the cover-up do they finally dismiss the false charges against him. Neither the sheriff nor the EBCI have taken required actions to appropriately investigate the shooting and other illegal actions by the officers under their control. No internal reprimand or suspension, or even just policy changes or retraining, has occurred in either agency related to these officers' illegal actions. No criminal charges have been brought against any of the officers related to their illegal actions. The ongoing cover-up continues to occur right now.
It says the ongoing cover-up continues to occur right now. There's no need for right now.
Jason and Ollie's lives are forever upended by these events. They live in fear that the powerful government forces will finish the job and murder them to complete the cover-up. The physical scars on Jason's body are obvious, but the mental and emotional scars cut even deeper and have not begun to heal.
The powerful government forces will finish the job. Let's just say, if you really want to go down this path and you really want to make a claim that Jason and Ollie's lives are in danger because of this, why not just say something like this? Some involved in the shootings or cover-up will try to silence them violently. That's a lot better. Okay, so that concludes the introduction. Keep in mind, I know I've been very critical of the lawyers writing here. I am not critical of Jason or Ollie. I think they have a really good case against the sheriff and the SWAT team. I hope that they are successful. The only thing I'm trying to say here is I don't think I would have written this lawsuit the same way. And I will leave it up to you to decide whether you agree with my analysis here. So let me know what you think. Like my video and subscribe to my channel.